one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. So we will call this meeting to order. Let me just get there we go. Okay. So I'm looking for, Mark Crary notified me this afternoon that he will be unable to attend today. So we will certainly miss him during our proceedings. So I am looking for a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes from December 14th, 2020. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Mark, and second?
Second.
Rebecca, is there any questions, discussion, modifications? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, and Cindy, you're on mute. I saw that hand. And all opposed say no. Motion carries. At this time, we will open it up for public comment. If there's anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment. Okay, hearing no public comment, we'll go on to Roger Blanchard's report for the Department of Public Works. Roger?
Good evening. My report hasn't changed much this time of year. We're flooding skating rink and cleaning ditches every chance we get, especially with the snow in them. We don't want culverts to plug up. We do shoulder work when we can. We dressed our plows last month. Well, this month. We've hauled off our winter sand last month. Our garbage and recyclables worked on beach parking lot just a little bit. We dug out the slab of pavement that was causing the problem. We filled it in with item 4. We still have a little bit more work there, but it's probably gonna have to wait till spring. We're always checking the dirt section on Lake Road, and we fix potholes when we can. This month coming, plow and sand as needed, cut low-hanging branches along the roads from where the snow pulls them down, cleaning our ditches, drag our ski trail if weather permits. We had lots of snow and now it's all disappeared. So garbage and recyclables, flood skating rink. When it gets cold enough, we had it all packed and ready to flood, and we lost all of our packing over the Christmas holiday. So we have to start again. Sidewalk, along the sidewalk, Elm Lake dirt sections, haul in item 4 and fix potholes. And it's pretty much the same next 60 days. Roadside ditching, plow, sand as needed, drag ski trails, work on dirt section of Elm Lake, blow sidewalks as needed, garbage recyclables, flood skating rink, clean ditches, and cut hanging branches along the road. And our chips is the same as before. We're still waiting on the new truck. That should be coming soon, I think. And that's about it.
So, Roger, I just have a couple of questions. So we have nothing else to submit to CHIPS, is that correct?
Not until the new truck comes in.
Okay. And then as far as the pavilion parking lot goes, I know that you've taken out a section of asphalt and you've put item 4 in there. Is there any other repairs that can be done, should be done before the next snowfall and before all the snowmobilers come?
Well, right now it's pretty flat because we back dragged it and stuff. I mean, there's still low spots that's going to gather water, but we can't, with the frost starting in the ground, we might be able to grade it a little bit, but I'm not sure. I don't know how deep the frost is. Probably not all that deep after the week we've had, but I don't want to do more damage than good if it's.
Looks pretty good. I mean, compared to what it was.
Yeah, it's a lot better than it was. It's not exactly the way we want it, but it's a lot better than it was. So
yeah, with
we're gonna keep watching it and fill in holes as we can, and then in spring we'll try to grade it so that all the water runs toward the river and the swamp.
Right.
Yeah, so my comment, the point of my comment in that is to ensure that it's in as good a shape as we can for the winter season, but then to also make sure that it's as good of condition we can get it before the waters come and really
Right.
do more damage and have
Well,
to
when
be on the
spring comes, it's
backside.
gonna get soft, so we won't be able to do much in the spring, but as soon as it hardens up, we'll grade it so that, we want to try to grade it so that there's a pitch that all the water goes toward the river and the swamp, not toward the center.
Correct.
We're gonna raise the center and grade it, the sides, and that's
Roger,
our plan.
yeah,
Yep.
Roger, could you ask the town to come over with their grade all and grade
That's,
it?
I was gonna talk to Randy and see if he could grade make like a crown on it for us. But like I said, we're in midwinter now, I don't know if we'll be able to do that unless we get a warm stretch. But like I said, we'll play it by ear. If we get a warm stretch and we can do it, we'll try to do it then. If not, we'll have to wait the spring.
Okay. Yeah, let's see if we can do that before things get too bad. And I did get a phone call during our first snowfall, and obviously that was a little bit of a pleasant surprise that we got twice as much snow as had been anticipated. The question from the resident was, how are we? He was concerned as far as emergency measures. If there was a call in the early morning,
Right.
if there was an emergency with the EMTs or with the fire, what are we doing for planning with snow plowing to ensure that the roads are somewhat clear, or what do emergency personnel do if the snows are deep and we haven't plowed yet?
What I did our last storm is I set my alarm for 2:30. I got up at 2:30, and when I went outside, there was only an inch of snow, so I said, it should be good to 4:30, so I set my alarm for 4:30 to go to work at 5, and when I got up, there was 8 inches, so it all came. So it was just one of those things, I thought we were safe.
Yep.
Never guessed we were gonna get that much snow within those short hours. I would have set my alarm earlier.
Yeah, the town didn't go down Route 30 until right after 5 a.m. So
Yeah, I
nobody
went
out
to work
before
at
5.
5. And it was tough catching up to it once we got to work at 5 because there was so much. So I would have liked to have got in earlier, but like I said, I checked at 2:30 and there was hardly anything. So I thought and the forecast said we were only supposed to get 3 to 6. So I figured we were safe.
No,
5 in the
that's
morning, but
that's why I qualified that. I mean, you can never
Yeah.
really tell. So in the case of an emergency, Roger, do you have a scanner at home that you would be alerted that there's an emergency, or
I don't have a
do
scanner.
people contact me to call you, or what? God
I
forbid.
don't have a scanner, but I have my phone next to my bed all night long, my cell phone, my work phone.
Okay.
And like I said, if they're calling for a big storm, I set my alarm at like 2:30 to check in the middle of the night to make sure
Okay.
things are still kosher and
Yep.
kosher, but maybe I'll have to set it 3 different times. I don't know. Because like I
Yeah.
said, the weather report said we weren't supposed to get that much, so I
Yeah.
didn't.
No. And things were cleaned up, pretty quickly, and it was, very unusual. So thank you for that. I just want to be proactive going forward so that
Right.
if there is a call, should we have the chief of the fire department call you?
If anytime if there's some sort of problem that they think that I can fix, give me a call. My phone is right there.
Okay. All right. Then
I
I
set my
will.
alarm and I check it off and on, but if my phone rings, I will answer it.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll let the fire chief know, and then I have my scanner on for SVAC emergencies. So if things are not plowed, we can give you a holler. But no, thank you for that. And I would like to comment that last month we had asked Roger to provide a list of materials and inventory, and I just wanted to throw that up. And I think that meets our needs, Roger. I just wanted to show the board.
Yeah, Crystal and I talked about that. We need some more breakdowns, but I was going
Okay.
to call Roger tomorrow and just break
Okay.
down some of that stuff so it's clearer. That's all.
Okay.
And it's
All
just,
right.
it's the last, if you keep going all the way down. and
The
keep
multiple
going,
sets.
It's the multiple sets. We just kind of have
These
to
need
identify
numbers.
what's in those. And I'll work with Roger and one day we'll do it. It's not next week.
All right. That's great. But thank you,
Okay.
Roger. I know that's It's a pain in the neck.
And this week, I will be taking some time off. I'm going in every morning to do the temperature check and stuff before my wife has to go to work.
Great.
And I do the stuff as much as I can get done before 7:30, then I come home. When she comes for lunch, I go in for an hour.
Okay.
So I'll be doing that she's gonna take one day off this week, so I'll be doing that for most of this week, but after that, I'll be back there full time again.
All right. That sounds good. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Roger?
Yeah, Roger, we have to meet on budget. Maybe we can set something up with Crystal next week when the mayor comes back.
Yep, that sounds great.
I can't believe it's budgeting time. Okay, good. Roger, have a good evening.
Yep, you guys too.
And if we don't see you, Happy New Year to you and your family.
Same to all you guys.
All right.
I
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Roger.
Thank you. All right, Mrs. O'Brien, Clerk Treasurer's report.
All right, I'm just gonna move that since Roger's leaving. Don't worry.
And thank you for coming into the office.
Yes, no problem. All right, there's just literally, I have two things. Tomorrow, not December 19th, December 29th, is the first day individuals can sign an independent nominating petition for the March elections. It's 2 trustees and the mayor that are up for election. And then the election packet is ready upon request. So if there's anybody interested, just give me a call or an email and I will copy that packet for you and have it ready.
Great.
And then just a reminder, the Village Hall is closed this Friday for New Year's Day.
Perfect.
And that's it for me.
All right. So, and things are going well with COVID as far as the office hours, everyone is still 9 to 1.
Yep. We've been staying a little bit later.
Yeah, the public time.
Right. The public time is 9 to 1. We've been staying a little bit longer. Occasionally, I most of the time stay until at least 2 o'clock, sometimes until 4. But I have the inside door locked usually, and then people can, if somebody stops by, they can just knock on the inside door if they need something.
Good.
But that's been working okay. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Terrific. Any questions for Crystal from the board? Hearing nothing. I'd like a motion to approve abstract number 14.
Don't move.
Okay, Mark, second.
Second.
Okay, Rebecca, thank you. I would like to point out that within this abstract, finally, we have the National Grid invoice for LED streetlights. So, yay. So thank you to Joe Pallone from National Grid. Evidently, he'd been in the hospital and that caused some delays as well. But I think we're back on track with that. So all in favor to approve abstract, the payment of abstract 14, say aye.
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 Okay, all opposed? We will be paying abstract number 14. And as a side note, I did review them remotely and I'll be signing them when I am back in town. Financial report number 6. May I have a motion to approve that report?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, and Cindy second. Any comments, questions about financial report number 6? Hearing none. All in favor of approving financial report number 6, say aye.
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 Okay, all opposed? Motion carries. Financial report number 6 is approved. Okay, so COVID update. Let me grab my thing here. Okay, so right now we have 40 patients under quarantine with 17 active cases in the county. There was an outbreak, I believe, in Inlet. There are a few issues going on there. We have approximately 60 quarantine travelers. Right now, we have the number of positive tests since the beginning of this pandemic. We are at 99, which has jumped pretty fast from November 9th when we had 22. So we've gone up 77 in a relatively short period of time. Well, I was just blanking. There are tests available that I've sent out. They did have testing this week today in Lake Pleasant. They will continue doing it tomorrow and Wednesday. If you haven't been tested, if you need to get tested, please do so, and encourage people to stay on top of that, especially those who are traveling and coming back. The governor of New York has mandated that if you can get a test before coming back to New York, do so 3 days beforehand, and then 4 days after you return. And then once you get that second negative COVID test, you can come out of quarantine. So just a little aside, encourage folks to be mindful of that. And we keep hoping that we will not be shut down with our increasing numbers. They are changing a little bit the way they're calculating yellow, orange, and red zones, and that has to do with availability of hospital beds, ICUs, things like that. So that definitely puts the North Country in a better position to stay within the yellow zone going forward. So that's great. Halloween storm, I've got some really good news. Let me share. We have another payment coming through for the emergency protective measures. So these are all the measures that were taking place on the night, the day after the storm. So everything from cleanup and digging out the wastewater treatment plant to our volunteer firefighters, pumping out basements and things like that. So this is the breakdown these are the monies that we get back to the village. So again, they pay for, the FEMA reimburses us for 75%. So that total came to $35,474.67, and they do 75% of that. So the way that breaks down is we will be getting back $12,931 for wastewater treatment plant, and they'll determine how much goes for water, how much goes for sewer. DPW, $6,400 back, and the fire department, $7,213, and that's based on the equipment, not their volunteer hours. Okay, any questions with that?
Yeah, just now, where does the money go back now? Does that go back in their budgets for this year?
Crystal?
It'll go into a line that's specifically for FEMA reimbursement from a previous year, from a prior year.
Okay.
It's a special code, so.
But can they spend it in this year? Like Roger needed $1,400 for his radiator?
Well, technically, it does increase the revenues for this year, so we can see how that works out, yeah.
Okay,
So I think we can do that through resolution, Mark,
okay.
that we can ascribe that. I am particularly grateful for the nearly $13,000 that we have recouped for wastewater treatment plant. So as you know, we've been running pretty much on the edge with that. So that'll be nice to at least have a little bit of a cushion, as it were. So we still have the beach. We are awaiting an engineering report on the pump station 2 that is down by Speculator Inn. They had ballparked it very low. So Brendan has come back and said exactly how much that would cost to replace it. If some of you will recall, it's kind of off kilter. So there are a number of things that need to be done to bring that into alignment. So we should be submitting that, and they want to progress with that relatively quickly. So that's great. FEMA COVID update, the clerk and deputy clerk are helping me collate all the information to go into that application, and we should be having that complete probably by next week, or at least up to date for next week. Verizon small cell towers, there's no new information except to say that, they're planning on doing the build in the in the next year, of course. LED streetlights, the invoice has finally been sent. We have agreed to pay it with this abstract, so they should be progressing with that, and we will be seeing a rebate, a rebate from National Grid for those LED streetlights as well. So that's great. And then we had under old business, the septic system erosion regulations. And so, Mark, we can either address your comments now or we can wait for the roundtable. What is your preference?
It really doesn't make any difference. You know, we can go through new business and have the zoning and
Okay.
planning do their reports, so I don't have to hang
Yep.
on. But
Perfect.
as you know, the resolution for adoption of Hamilton County Local Law 1 of 1976 was put through. We have to go to public hearing.
Right.
The addendum to that to make it address the issues in the village for those who have septic systems are going to be discussed with the town, and the erosion regulations will start once this is complete.
Correct. Thank you. Okay, under new business, zoning officer report, our new zoning officer, Rick Rumsey. So Rick, if you can just give us
No
a brief
problem.
update. Thank you.
Well, I started back in September and immediately went on a 1-month vacation to South Carolina, at which time I actually spent quite a bit of time reviewing the land use code book, which kind of directs my activities quite a bit. We've had some interesting times here the last couple of months. We had, I guess the highlight would be a proposal by Dollar General. They were looking to purchase a portion of a piece of property. It turns out that piece of property, they would have to get a pretty sizable increase in the amount of that property that would be zoned commercial, probably twice what the size is currently, which is 230 feet from the middle of the road. And they need close to 500 feet going backwards. Or actually 400 feet. So it would be, I would say that right now the project's on hold. I spoke to the engineer and she said that she is wondering if she's going to pursue it or not. We'll just have to see. But they could certainly apply for a variance, and then it would go from there. So that was last month's meeting. There's been a few minor things going on. There was approval of a couple of very small subdivisions. And let's see. I'd like to acknowledge that I've called on a few people for help and so on, not the least of which is Crystal. She has helped me quite a bit with finding maps and trying to look for different kinds of paperwork and so on. Also, the mayor has been very helpful in actually when I first looked at the property that was proposed for the Dollar General, it looked to me like there would be enough frontage. Actually, frontage is okay, but there'd be enough depth of the commercial zoning, but that was not correct. And there were all different kinds of maps showing all different amounts of the depth of the commercial. Finally, we found the one that seems to be correct, and so that's where that stays. That was the mayor's doing. She went to I think the tax department in the county.
Yeah, the
and
tax mapping.
overlaid it. Okay, and you overlaid it with the mapping we have and came up with the actual numbers. So that was very, very helpful.
Yeah, and-
Tracy's been very helpful.
if I can just put in a side in there, Mark and Lori from tax mapping were incredibly helpful. And what they're going to do is they're going to sit down with you, Rick, and myself and go through that map so that there will actually be an overlay for the zoning onto the Hamilton County tax map, which should be helpful for people who are interested in different properties going forward, and certainly be of benefit to you, Rick.
Yeah, definitely it would.
And the planning board.
Yes. Yeah. I
Good.
think being on the planning board before I took on this responsibility was probably very helpful. But as I say, Crystal's been remarkably helpful, as has Tracy. Also, the former zoning officer, David McComb, he's a great resource. I've called him on several occasions, and he's talked to me about a lot of different kinds of issues.
Sure.
And Lisa Eckhoff, who is on the planning board, has been really helpful. She seems to have an awful lot of knowledge of where to find stuff in the land use code book, which is kind of an extensive book, frankly. And I've got a whole lot of pages bulleted now and with stick-it notes and so on. But it's just really good to know that those resources are there, and they're more than willing to help.
Great.
I think we'll see where the Dollar General thing goes. My son said, "Well, they'll just put it in Pasico." So I don't know. I have no idea. But anyway, that's about where that goes. That's a big one, frankly, and
that's
gonna
huge.
it's gonna create a lot of passion, I think.
Yep. Well, thank you for your trial by fire and coming out the other side relatively unscathed, but so much the wiser. And it's very heartwarming to know that the volunteers that we have on our committees, the planning board, have done a great job supporting you and rallying around. And again, as you say, thanks to the former zoning officer, Dave McComb, for his help in getting you going, and also for Bob Benkovich looking after your space for that month.
Right.
Good. Any questions, comments for Rick? No? Okay. So what I'm trying to do going forward is we're going to try and touch base with these different committees every 3 to 6 months, so that it's on a regular basis. So next month on January 14th, I believe is the date, we'll be having an update report from Bob Benkovich as the building and code enforcer. That'd be great. Okay, Rick, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I don't think Matt is on the line, and I would think that your report and Matt's would overlap significantly, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, thank you for that. And if you will recall, a while back, we had a conversation that there are some new laws in place requiring us to have an public employer health emergency plan for the village of Speculator. And so I would like to thank Cindy Rumsey for working on that with me. I'd also like to thank Crystal and Roger for doing some additional work on that. So I appreciate that. I'm not asking that we review to approve tonight, but what I'm asking is we'll walk through it very quickly, throw out some highlights that need to be reviewed and thought about and what those implications are. And hopefully by January 14th, we can approve that and go forward. So stop me if you have any questions. The New York legislation for this is S as in Sam, 8617 B as in boy / A as in apple 108. So the plan has been done in accordance with New York State Labor Law 27C, New York State Education Law, paragraphs K and L of subdivision 2 of section 2801, blah, blah, blah. Okay. There's a lot of regulations that have been done. So the purpose is basically to have an emergency health plan for the village that we can look at. We have done this as it's pertinent to the village and our employees. And this is triggered by the pandemic. We sought guidance from the CDC. We've sought plans through NICOM, where they had a webinar and provided some additional information. And then since then, I've looked up some emergency plans and talked through it with Cindy Rumsey, who has done a tremendous job doing the health plan for Camp of the Woods, which is quite extensive and has been very well received from by the Department of Health. So kudos to her and that organization, and it'll be good for us going forward. So these are just the situational overview, what the CDC recommends as far as using hand sanitizer, social distancing. If you're ill, notify your supervisor, go home, clean and disinfect on a regular basis, and then any other guidance that comes up over time. So there are a number of planning assumptions that you can read through, particularly looking at how much PPE do we need, what is the supply chain, where do we store it, how do we store it, how do we communicate, what do we do for isolation, all those sorts of things. So as we go through, one of the big things that we have to do in this plan is identify what functions are essential. So if some of you will recall, because it was Mark and I who were here prior, so Cindy and Rebecca, you can think about it. We had to determine what functions were essential. So in looking at the village being so small with so few employees, is basically everyone who works at the village is essential because it keeps the infrastructure going, it keeps the village going. So the clerk treasurer, there's a description here, and the priority is 1 being essential, and 4, you can probably do without it or you can work from home. So all of these are 1s, we really don't have any 2s. So the clerk, you can see the general description. They are the chief fiscal officer. This is responsible for day-to-day operations, customer service, communications with the public and the employees, village board members and other public officials, stewardship of public funds, public records, public property, and maintaining meeting calendars and updating the website with important information. Similarly, the deputy clerk is essential in that they have to be in the office to collect revenues, process payments, the biweekly accounts payable, vouchers, mailing, phones, et cetera, et cetera. So those are a lot of on-site things. A Department of Public Works is pretty straightforward. This is responsible for maintenance of the infrastructure, maintenance operations, trash and recycling, building and cleaning maintenance, street cleaning, city storm, emergency response, etc. Water, wastewater, same sort of thing, critical infrastructure for the village. The volunteer fire department, of course, for emergency management, for fires, for any state mandated inspections that are required. And they go above and beyond fires in that they respond and train for water rescues, motor vehicle accidents, activated alarms and different activated systems, hazardous materials, brush fires, and storm incidents. And then the mayor is a chief executive officer budget officer, emergency management, supervises all village employees, execute contracts. So there's a lot of things that you need to be physically available to do, including signing checks, investigating claims, etc. And then the building inspector, I have put on here as well, because the building inspector and code enforcement officer is important for the operations of residences and businesses. So even if we shut down and people continue to work and continue to build and continue to renovate, that would be an essential function. The positions pretty much mirror what I've just gone through, so I won't belabor that point. It's just bulleted and divided out, whether they're manager or staff. Remote work protocols, the clerks are able to work from home. They are able to work remotely, at least one of them at a time. Whereas DPW, the supervisor can work remotely most of the time, and everyone else pretty much shows up to do their work in person. PPE, we are required to have 2 pieces of PPE per person per day. So Roger, Crystal, and I calculated how many masks, face shields / safety goggles we would need, any gloves that are available. We would keep at least 1 month's supply at the village hall for those employees and visitors, at the wastewater treatment plant. Everything else would be stored at the garage and would be monitored and maintained so that it's constantly replenished. All cleaning supplies, we have policies and procedures as far as cleaning, how many people in a shift room, cleaning and disinfecting vehicles at the beginning of shift and end of shift, etc. And then we go into social distancing. So the 6 feet, face mask, hygiene, wash your hands frequently. And as we all know, cover your mouth and nose if you're going to sneeze, use a tissue, avoid touching your face. Cleaning and disinfecting. There are cans of spray and wipes in all the areas to be able to do that. In each of our buildings, we also have a placard with a screening questionnaire that visitors are asked to read through. If they have any symptoms or they answer yes to any screening, we ask them not to enter and to seek medical attention, just so that we can keep our employees safe, and especially those with autoimmune disorders, diabetes, etc. We go through staff exposures, cleaning and disinfection, what needs to be done with that. What do we do with employees who have suspected or confirmed case? So a suspected case is anyone considered if they are experiencing fever, shortness of breath, continuous cough, or they've been exposed to a COVID-19 person, meaning an immediate family member has tested positive or exhibited symptoms. In the last 14 days, they came into close contact. So that's less than 6 feet for a prolonged period of time. So more than 30 minutes with someone who has tested positive. So if someone believes that they have been exposed, they are to immediately notify their supervisor, who in turn will notify myself. They're to quarantine for 14 days, seek medical advice, and as possible, the employees will be permitted to work remotely during this period. But as I've said, that's kind of difficult for most of our employees. If it's a suspected case, we notify employees, we keep the distance, we ensure that employees' work areas are thoroughly cleaned. Confirmed cases, again, they need a positive test, immediately notify supervisor, remain outside of the workplace until they're cleared to come back. And then if there is a confirmed case, all employees would be notified who came into contact. We do try and use HIPAA, but in a very small organization, that's going to be very difficult to do, but we will do what we can to ensure that's appropriate. Cleaning and disinfecting, pretty straightforward. The places that I would like you to really think about are the employee and contract leave. So it's our policy that employees of the village will not be charged with leave for testing. Employees will be provided with up to 2 weeks of paid sick leave at the employee's regular rate of pay for a period which the employee is unable to work due to the Department of Health mandated quarantine. So should a second exposure occur, necessitating a quarantine, the employee will be required to use their sick time. So that's something that I wanted to throw out there. The state mandates that we provide up to 80 hours, and after that, it's on the employee, unless someone has a different thought. We can talk about that next time. And then we are required to give paid sick leave at 2/3 the regular rate of time if the employee is unable to work because of a bona fide need to care for an individual subject to quarantine. So if there's a spouse or children or childcare is closed or unavailable, that would be an additional 2 weeks of 2/3 paid time, and that's mandated. And then additional provisions would be enacted based upon need and guidance as required and put in place by federal and state employees. And then I think the rest is pretty much straightforward. Housing, we are required to provide housing for essential employees in the event that they are unable to quarantine appropriately. I have contacted Bob Kukin. So he says, so long as there is a room available, he would be happy to do that. There are some other facilities within the village that we can turn to. And then, of course, emergency management is also available that we can turn to them for help. And then I've added 5 different links to CDC guidance that should be useful for those, for our employees as well as ourselves. So we will go through that in further detail January 14th, and then we can adopt that accordingly. Any questions or comments on that?
Looks like you did a great job. A lot of work there.
Yep, thank you. We did have a template, which is great, and yeah, so hopefully we won't need to implement any of that besides the PPE and the cleaning. So I hope we all are able to weather this without too many quarantines. Board roundtable. So I will open it up. I know, Mark, you had a comment based on a town meeting last week regarding the septic system and erosion regulations.
Yes, I read the minutes of the meeting, and one of the, I guess, board members who works with us misunderstood what he thought would be a town-wide septic law regarding discharge into waterways. He stated the village has gone ahead and crafted what looks like a village law ready for adoption. And there were things in it we haven't discussed. I thought we were going to use the county law as a springboard and then improve it. Well, we did use it as a springboard. The final draft of the resolution for adoption of local law 1 was provided to the towns. All I had to do was remove the term village and insert town. And I stated that in my email to the representative from the town, but I never received a response. The town board member suggested at the only meeting of an ad hoc committee held with the mayor, myself, and the code enforcement officer, we were going to hire a lawyer and specify the main waterways and tributaries we want to protect. Well, that was supposed to be done under an amendment to local law 1. which was drafted and provided to the town and to the village, to the mayor, which would be the discussion of our next meeting, probably in the first week of January. Another comment was it doesn't make any sense to pass a village law on this topic. Why? Well, local law adopted by town, subdivision 3 of section 11 of the municipal home rule relates to the effect of local laws adopted by towns. It provides that such a law should be effective and operative only in the portion of the town outside of any village or villages therein, except in the case where the power of the town board extends and includes the area of the town and the village. This classification, modification of restriction on local law power insofar as it impair the power of another local government. So the idea of this was we'd each adopt local law 1. I provided that both in a Word document. So he stated the county law, if he needs to adopt it, I will get a fresh copy because I have 3 versions now with little differences. His recommendation to our board would go slowly and get input from the townspeople. Well, it was provided word for word in a workable document, a Word document, and as a village resolution. The supervisor noted that the village of the committee is made up of people who do not have septic systems. Well, that's not true. Septic systems are used in South Shore Road, about 30 of them, and others near rivers and streams that discharge into Lake Pleasant. The addendum number 2 contains 2 options, one by the age of the system and another by distance from a water body, to be discussed between the town and the village. The board member stated there's not much enforcement going on. We realize that, at least at an overriding level. If you have concerns, you can always call APA, DEC, or the health department. Yes, that's correct. The supervisor asked who would enforce. Bob can't. We would have to hire someone. And that's to be worked out between the village and their employees or the town and their employees. The town board member asked that we stated we would need to have an educational component for buyers, sellers, and contractors and real estate agents. Agreed, and I'm willing to do that.
Well, that was also discussed during our planning session with the town representative.
This was tabled to enable the board member to get true county law for the town board to consider adopting, and that was all provided. So again, we can set up a meeting when you come back and try to hammer all this out, but we're doing what we need to do to move forward. If they did adopted everything, we would have to adopt what they had. The difference, I think, is the adoption of the amendment to this may be a little different for the town and the village. So we should do that separately. So those are my comments.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that. I also read the town minutes with a little confusion based on the things that you had noted, Mark, and what had been discussed and agreed to during those meetings. So thank you for that clarification. Anything else with the board roundtable?
Can you just clarify for me, like, what point are we at? Like, are we held up by the town?
So we're approaching it in 2 phases. So the one is that there's this septic law from 1976 that's a county law. So the first step that we've done and that we had discussed is to adopt that county law as a village law. So nothing is changed except now we can apply it at a village level.
Yeah, we have the authority to apply county law at a village level, but it's very genetic because it was written in 1976.
Right,
the addendum will specify the things they need to be in compliance with local law 1.
Right. So the things that we would like to do going forward is like for right now, if you were going to sell your house and you have septic, there's no requirement that it be tested, that it's functioning, that it's working. even though you're within 300 feet of the lake or a major waterway. So part of the law we would look to put in as an addendum is to say, okay, you know, for all new homes or for all homes changing hands,
Right.
we require that the septic system or the cistern would be evaluated to make sure that it's in good and working order. And then, you know, you would go on and say, okay, all systems within X amount of distance from a major waterway or a lake would need to be evaluated if they're older than 1976. And then you look at those for a year or two, and then the next rollout would be, you know, until the year 2000. And, you know, so that it's on a quasi-regular basis that we are being diligent about discharge into our lakes and into our rivers. Because if we don't have our lakes, we don't have our rivers, we don't have any attraction up here, right?
Right.
So,
Yes.
and we've seen it getting worse over time, and LPSA has done a great job, but it also comes down to those local laws and enforcement of ensuring that we are doing best by the natural resources we have.
And
So
in
that's
the
where we are
addendum, I had two different alternatives, one by age of the house and second by distance from a water body or a river or stream. And those are the things we need to work out with the town.
Right. So ideally, it would be the same for the town of Lake Pleasant and the village of Speculator, that we would have the same application of those guidances of those laws.
But the town is going to assume a greater commitment than we do because we have less residents on the lake who are not don't have septic systems, who have septic systems but are not into the wastewater treatment plant.
Right. Right. And we'll go through every step of this in our board meeting. We will be very transparent. We will solicit input from the public. There are a lot of people out there who have said, hey, I have expertise in writing regulations, living through these regulations. We have a number of examples to look at. Mark, you provided from Inlet, was it, that has the?
Yeah, Inlet has
Yeah.
a pretty generic law throughout the state that requires people who sell their house have to have their septic systems inspected. And if they do fail, they have to have them replaced before the new buyer takes over. And a
And
lot
I
of
had
that is the
provided one from
terminology
another
we use.
community.
What's that?
And then I had provided a law from another community that was near Lake Erie or
Yes.
somewhere in that
And
region.
that provides a distance to a water body. And again, we have two different things that we can use, either by age of the house or distance to the water body. And again, we have to negotiate that with the town. I like the water body because it makes it a little easier. Instead of trying to find out every age of every house. Most people have no idea when their septic systems were installed or replaced.
Right.
So it may be easier to go by water body, but we'll discuss that and come up with a solution.
And there are some ideas. I have some very good friends of mine and business associates who are in the eastern townships areas, much like ours, with a lot of small lakes, septic systems, and they've gone through the process over the last 3 to 5 years of having some sort of septic regulations, and they have some unique ideas that may or may not help to inform us as we think about how to do what's best for our community and to bear in mind the impact on our residents and our homeowners. And as part of that whole discussion, the DEC in the past has provided some level of grants to folks, you know, in the event that they would have to upgrade their system or the system is so old that it would need to be replaced. So we are also looking into those opportunities as well to make sure that all of our residents, you know, no matter what their economic background is, are able to comply with these future laws.
Okay,
Would
so
you summarize?
we're hoping to kind of be in line with Lake Pleasant, or do we like have some kind of official thing that has to be worked out that before we can move forward? Like, I understand ideally we want the same as them, but what if they
Yes.
want to take more time?
Then we're moving forward. Again, that's up to them. We've given the opportunity, all the documents they need to adopt Local Law 1 of 1976. Again, we either have to wait for them and not do anything until they resolve their issues.
Mhm.
And I think we should resolve our own issues, and hopefully they follow suit.
So we will
Okay.
plan, to your point, Rebecca, we will plan to reconvene that committee, to have the Lake Pleasant representative, to have Bob Benkovich and ourselves sit down and go through what the next steps are, what things are available, and to map out how we solicit input from the public, how we bring in these other laws as perhaps a template, and what works best for the village and the town, and then see what those next steps are. And as Mark said, ideally within the next several months, we would be able to have those public hearings, that we would be able to have that fruitful discussion and move forward accordingly. But it's obviously our intent to coordinate it with the town. But, after a certain point, I don't think that we would be waiting indefinitely.
Mhm.
We'd
Okay,
also need a lawyer review of the addendum, just to make sure we're complying and we're not overreaching.
Right.
sounds good.
Any other comments for roundtable? Hearing none, last opening for the public comment.
Yeah, Jeanette, I'm here.
Oh, hi.
Benkovich.
Yep.
I just want to let the board know that the Williamson software has been installed on my computer.
Great.
And taken some instruction, and hopefully we're going to try and get the new building permits off the ground on the 1st of January going forward. We also obviously have to do some more training, but we went over it, and I have a general idea what's going on, so we're going to implement it so that we can get on that new system for both the town and the village on January 1st.
Terrific.
Just to let you know, the town has advertised. I don't know if the village has at all about the new rates. I don't know if you wanted to do that separately, but I know the town has had it in the paper.
Yeah, I saw that, Jeanette. Maybe we should do the same.
Yeah, we can do that. Crystal, would you mind, did they have it separately as an advertisement or as an article, or what exactly?
They just posted it in the paper that the rates for building permits and stuff are going to be going up, and it just gave the new rates, I guess. That's
Okay.
all. It was in the paper.
Okay, so we can do that, and we can also update the website if it hasn't been done so already.
Yeah, that would be fine. Just update the website. Yep.
Yeah, as of the 1st.
I think everybody kind of knows, they're going up. So it's not really news to anybody, but they're aware of it. But they just had to do it to make sure that the people that don't listen or don't go on the website saw it.
Sure. No, that's good. And Bob, I really do hope that you will benefit greatly. And I already know that the town and village will benefit greatly from that system.
Yeah. We'll have a few little bugs to work out. As I have some questions already, but they're calling them on the phone seems to be real easy, and they get right back to you and give you the answers. So
Good.
Not too worried.
Yeah, and as Crystal said, the support has been really very good.
Yep.
From our standpoint. Terrific.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so if there's nothing else, I wish you all a very happy and healthy new year, one that will not be a repeat of 2020.
Right.
So, motion to adjourn.
Sure, Mark.
All right. So have a good evening. Next board meeting will be January 11th, not the 14th, as I had said. And then the next planning board meeting will be January 26th. Thank you and
Okay.
have a good night.
Okay, have a good
Thank you. Same to you.
All right. Thank you, Crystal.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Mrs. O'Brien, you're all set?